What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I am talking today about high school versus middle school, and so this video is all about the pros and cons of teaching high school. If you are interested in seeing the pros and cons of teaching middle school, stay tuned for part 2 of this video. Alright, y'all, so I wrote out a list of all of the things that I could think of, and honestly I don't have that many on each side, but I will say, for me, this is going to be my own personal opinions. So I'm going to start with the cons first. I'm going to start with the negatives first. So the only con for me is that these kids, or high school kids, depending on where you are and like the circumstances and everything, they are grown. And I mean that in the sense that in their minds they believe that they're adults. In certain situations they actually are the adults of the house. They have real jobs after school. They have cars, which is, you know, major responsibility. They have, some of them have kids, some of them are pregnant, and so you deal with like major grown people things dealing with high school students. So you have seniors who are 18, 19 years old. I know I had a few students last year who were 19, and so I mean, technically that is an adult, right? So they are dealing with real adult grown problems, and sometimes that interferes with the main purpose of why you're at school, which is to learn. So that's one con I will say about teaching high school. Another con that I have is that they're kind of stuck in their ways, meaning I get the kids that are 10th grade. So some of them are freshmen, but 10th grade, at 10th grade, you know, you've been doing this. You got 2 years left in high school, so you've been playing this game of school. So whatever routines and things that you've established in your mind, such as if you think homework is important, you're gonna do your homework. If at this age you don't think homework is important, you're probably not gonna do it. So it's kind of hard to try to instill new things in them, or new routines, new foundations. It's kind of hard. I'm not saying it's impossible. It takes a lot of routine practice. It takes a lot of effort, but I will say that it's not as, it doesn't stick as hard for high schoolers as it does for middle school or elementary. You know, it's easier to kind of mold those kids or influence them in a certain way. High school is like, if they don't care about school, they're not gonna care at that point. It's kind of hard to really get them to focus and care. That's pretty much it. That's all of my cons. That's the only cons that I can think of. I definitely have cons at the school that I work at, but that's not gonna be pretty relevant to everyone else, and I wanna keep this very general. So for me, that's the high school problems that I encounter. So for positives and pros, I have more pros than negatives. I always do, always find the good. So the first pro that I have is that for me, I have a real connection with these kids. So these are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. I was not that age, or not that long ago, I was, you know, 16, 17, 18. And so I can relate to them. I remember how it feels to be 16. I remember how it feels when I first got my, you know, I remember how these feelings felt. And so I remember when, you know, you're boy crazy and you're trying to think about boys, which that never really was too much of, you know, a focus for me. But I will say that I connect with these kids. I understand them. I know what they're going through. And so that is a major plus for me. And that's really the reason that I wanted to move on to high school, is that I knew that I could connect and try to get to them before it was too late. Because like once you're in college, or once you out in the real world, it's kind of hard to instill practices and routines and try to, you know, try to mold the kids. So another pro for me is intense subjects, meaning we can read things like The Hate U Give, and we can read, you know, very intense subjects that cause debates, that cause political debates, that cause racial, you know, injustices, things like that. It's kind of hard to teach like very sensitive subjects like that in middle school or elementary. They don't really understand. But at 16, 17, 18, these kids are understanding the news. They're understanding what's going on in the news, and black people being shot and killed by police officers. You know, that's something to really talk about. That's something that they can really understand. My phone is gone. So, I can say I have experienced a few high schools where the high schools get out of school earlier. With middle school, they get out a little later, and I know elementary get out, I think they kind of get out early, sometimes late. I don't really know. But I know for me, when I went to high school, I got out at 2:30 every day when I was in high school. And the high school that I teach at, we get out of school every day at 2:30. So I think that's an advantage for me. I know some schools get out at 4, 3:55, some are out at 3:30, and so that is so late to me. Like, me being home at 3:30 is like gold, like heaven. So that is definitely a plus and a positive for me. And then last but not least is school activities. There's all types of things. We got prom and graduation and homecoming and pep rallies and games. Of course, some middle schools have pep rallies and games, but they're not as, like, you know, dope and intense as high school games are, you know. So I would definitely say if you're involved in those types of activities, which I coached a dance team last year, so, you know, being involved in that was exciting. Going to the basketball games and all of that, like, you get a real sense of culture and family and just, you know, school spirit. I will say that middle school doesn't offer that. Well, they do, but not as intense. Like, it's not as special as high school. You know, most people are going to the local high school games, not really the middle school games. So that's all that I can think of as far as the pros for me, the pros and cons of teaching high school for me. I enjoy teaching high school. I don't think that I would go back to middle school. I've never taught elementary. I don't have the patience for, like, little kids. I love children, but I just don't have the patience for, like, coloring activities all the time and just, like, you know, the extreme bubbly. I'm not like that. I'm very assertive. I'm very direct. So I'm not the, okay, children, we have to, like, I don't have that elementary demeanor. Like, elementary teachers are so, like, that's not me at all. So these are my pros and cons. If you have any pros and cons and you teach high school, please let me know what you enjoy or dislike about teaching high school down below. Oh, I will say this, high school, which, you know, this is pretty much all schools, right, is state testing. Y'all know I hate state testing. I think it's the dumbest thing ever. I think state testing is a whole bunch of bull shh. So that's just my opinion. But yes, if you have any pros and cons, drop them down below if you can relate to high school. And remember to stay tuned for part 2 to hear my middle school pros and cons. Thank y'all for watching.